Before we can link our textures to the model, we need to bake out diffuse, normal, and parameter files. This can also be done with PBR Painter. Let's start by first cleaning up the outline window. Open Suitcase12.blend if it is not already open. Hover the mouse cursor over the outline window, right mouse button, and select New Collection. Name the collection Stamp Meshes. And drag all of the stamp meshes into the new collection. Close the chevrons of the stamp meshes and aids collections. Select the handle mesh, the pads mesh, and the suitcase mesh last, and join. Keyboard shortcut Control plus the J key. We can now merge the rings mesh and the suitcase mesh. In the PBR Painter workspace and in object mode, select the rings mesh, then the suitcase mesh, and with the mouse cursor hovered over the 3D editor window, join. Keyboard shortcut Control plus the J key. With the suitcase mesh selected and the leather material selected, select Baking. Set a resolution of 1K and a margin of 6 pixels. Select Save Textures Externally. Create a folder in your Properties project and name it Textures. Under Format, select PNG. Select Merge and check Merge All Materials on Model to a single material and select OK. In PBR Painter's Layers mode, you'll find that you now have only one layer, named New Layer. In your Texture folder, you will find you have 4 texture maps: Base Color, Normal, Roughness, and Metallic. Each contains both the suitcase textures and the ring textures. You can delete the Roughness and Metallic maps, as we will only use Base Color and Normal. In order to link the textures to the modeling data, we need 3 files: the diffuse, parameters, and normal maps. As you saw, we have already created the base color or diffuse and the normal maps. So all we have left to create is the parameters map. For this, we will use PBR Painter and channel packing. With PBR Painter version 2.3.5 and likely earlier versions, there is a bug when channel packing an ambient occlusion map. The workaround is to add a white map, that is, no ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion adds little to most, if not all, textures, so adding a white map will result in little, if any, perceptible difference. For the blue channel, there is no option for adding a white map. However, selecting IOR adds a white map. So that's what we are going to do. In the PBR Painter workspace, with the suitcase mesh and the leather material selected, select the baking button. Select a resolution of 1K and a margin of 6 pixels. Select Save Texture externally to save the map to your Textures folder. Under Format, select PNG. Under Channel, select Manual. Select Channel Packing, and under Channel Packing Images, select Add Channel Packing Image and OK. Under Channel Assignments, select Pack Individual RGB Channels. Set Red to None, Green to Roughness, Blue to IOR, and Alpha to Metallic. Select Bake and OK. In the Textures folder, you will see a new file called Suitcase Channel Packed Image 1K.png. Change the file names to diffuse, normal, and parameters. We will now use PBR Painter to generate an exportable material. That is, one with a principled BSDF shader node to which we can link the diffuse, parameters, and normal maps. Uncheck Channel Packing. Select Base Color, Roughness, and Normal. This will link image texture nodes to the principled BSDF shader node. Check Create Exportable Material, and then select Bake and OK. In addition to creating an exportable material called Leather Exportable, this will also create a new set of base color, normal, and roughness maps. These additional files are not needed and can be deleted from the Textures folder. Select the Leather Exportable material and change the name to material.m.pbrmetal. Switch to the Shading workspace. You can move the nodes closer together so you can zoom in on the node tree. Box Select and use the keyboard shortcut the G key followed by the Y key and drag to move the nodes up and down on the Y-axis. In the node tree, replace Suitcase Base Color 1K Merged.png with diffuse.png. Replace the Suitcase Channel Packed Image 1K.png with parameters.png. Since this file contains non-color information, change the color space to non-color. Replace the suitcase normal 1K merge.png with normal.png. Again, since this file contains non-color information, change the color space to non-color. Save your work. Save the Blender file as blender13.blend. In object mode, with the suitcase mesh selected, select the File menu, then select Export, and select FBX. Under Operator Presets, select your Trainz preset. The parameters should now be set to, in the pop-up window, select Objects, under Object Type, Mesh, under Applied Scale, FBX All, under Forward, Y Forward, and under Up, Z Up. If you haven't already created an FBX preset, select the plus icon next to the operator presets and give the set a name. Name the file suitcase13.fbx and select Export FBX. Close the Blender file without saving, as you have already saved it. You can use the generic thumbnail file you created for the shipping crate model. A copy of the file is available here, or you can create a new one. The thumbnail file is a simple JPEG file, but must be 240 pixels wide and 180 pixels high. We are now ready to assemble the Trainz asset. I'm going to make the asset compatible with Trainz 2019 and newer versions. That is, using a Trainz build of 4.6. Open Trainz and the Content Manager window. From the filters in the Content Manager window, select Today. In the Developer menu, select New Content to create a new asset. Select the new asset and open. Keyboard shortcut Shift plus Alt plus the E key. You will see the config.txt file that Trainz has created in the folder. Copy your texture files into the folder, diffuse.png, normal.png, and parameters.png. Copy the suitcase13.fbx and the Thumbnail.jpg files into the folder. Open the config.txt file. You will see two lines of text known as tags, CUID and CIND. The asset CUID is a unique number for the asset. It has two parts. The first part is your Trainz identifier number. Mine is 431633. The second part is a unique number assigned to this asset. The asset kind must be one of N3V Games' supplied asset kinds. Let's call the suitcase Scenery, as it is an object to be placed in the Trainz scene. There are many tags you can add to the config file that will provide information about the asset or determine how the asset will appear and behave in Trainz. The following are essential. The Trainz build number is a unique number given to each Trainz asset. I have decided to use a Trainz build number of 4.6. This should allow the asset to be imported into Trainz 2019 and newer versions such as Trainz 2022. Username is the English name of the asset that will appear in the Content Manager, Surveyor, and the Download Station. Category class defines what the asset is or is used for. In older versions of Trainz, at least, it could be used to search for assets on the Download Station. I'm going to use BB, which indicates that the asset is a buildable object. Mesh Table Load Transition Distances defines the distance from the viewpoint at which copies of the asset with fewer poly counts will appear. The Suitcase has only 430 polys, triangles that is, so one mesh will suffice. However, a Mesh Table Load Transition Distance tag must still be added. I have set the distance to 1,000 meters, at which point the Suitcase will disappear. In addition to tags, the config file has what is known as containers. Containers have multiple lines of text with indents that are defined by brackets. The structure is important. For each opening bracket, there must be a closing bracket. The mesh table container inputs information contained in the FBX file. So the name of the FBX file must be entered into the mesh table. The name of the FBX file is entered with a suffix .trainzmesh. An auto-create value of 1 tells Trainz to make the asset visible in-game. If a value of 0 is entered, the asset would be invisible in-game. The LOD level is the level of detail that this particular copy of the mesh represents. In the case of the Suitcase, there is only one FBX file and therefore only one level of detail. The first level of detail, or LOD, is designated as 0. The thumbnail container includes the information about the thumbnail image. The first thumbnail is given a designation of 0. The container includes its width, height, and name. You can save and close the config file, but if you are going to export the Trainz asset to N3V's download station, you will need some additional inputs. The category region tag defines the part of the world to which the asset would be found. For example, AU for Australia, US for the United States, or CA for Canada. The category era tag defines the time period by decade to which the asset applies. For example, 2000s or 2010s. If more than one decade is relevant, they are separated by a semicolon. The description tag contains a brief description of the asset. This will appear in the Content Manager when the asset is selected and double-clicked. It will also appear in N3V Games download station. The author tag is the name you use within N3V. It is a good idea to include, as it allows Trainz users to contact you through the forum. The contact email tag is optional, but gives a direct means for users to contact you. You might wish this if you want them to get special permission to modify your asset. A licensing statement is also optional, but gives you a chance to indicate how you would like your asset to be used by other Trainz users. For example, you may not wish the asset to be offered for sale, or you may not wish the asset to be modified. After entering the information into the config.txt file and saving, the changes must be submitted for edit, a process whereby Trainz compiles the information and creates the asset. In the Content Manager, select the asset, which should say it is open for edit, and submit the edits. Right mouse button and select Submit Edits, or keyboard shortcut Shift plus Command plus the E key. If all goes well, that is, you have no errors, the status of the asset should change from open for edit to modified. The compilation process that occurs when you submit an asset for edit creates 3 texture.txt files that link the textures to the model. It also creates a file with the FBX file name and a .trainz mesh suffix. Once this file is created, the FBX file can be deleted from the asset folder. This prevents Trainz users from reloading the asset back into Blender for modification or reverse engineering. The asset is now ready to open in Trainz.